Welcome to The Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The press is not a fair observer of the Israel-Hamas conflict. A former AP journalist reveals the hard truth. The Supreme Court's decision on a local gun control and an abortion case may be setting precedents for Biden's radical policies. The New Hampshire Audit is revealing some disturbing results. And in Arizona, today was supposed to be the public Senate meeting addressing the serious issues found in the audit. How did Maricopa County officials respond? Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday pushed back the claim that Associated Press reporters were lucky to get out of the Jala Tower before Israeli strikes hit the building in the center of Gaza. Netanyahu said, "One of the AP journalists said we were lucky to get out." No, you weren't lucky to get out. It wasn't luck. It's because we took special pains to call people in those buildings to make sure that the premises were vacated. Hamas was being reportedly using civilians and journalists as human shields in the area. He also said, "I think you can appreciate the efforts we go through in dense urban fighting when terrorists are targeting civilians. We do our best to avoid civilian casualties, and we did that yesterday with that building as well." While AP slammed the idea that they knew Hamas was in the same building as its offices, compelling evidence emerged that suggests otherwise. Matthias Friedman, former AP journalist in Jerusalem between 2006 and 2011, tweeted Sunday, "Any press organization operating in a dictatorship is going to be compromised and will further compromise itself to conceal how it has been compromised. It's not a new story or one limited to the AP or to Gaza." In a 2014 article published in The Atlantic, Friedman wrote, "The Western press has become less an observer of this conflict than an actor in it." He said millions of people, including policymakers, rely on journalistic accounts to comprehend the Middle East, but the press has failed to do their job. Friedman gave a vivid example. The AP staff in Gaza City would witness a rocket launch right beside their office, endangering reporters and other civilians nearby, and the AP wouldn't report it. They couldn't even report Israeli claims that Hamas was launching rockets from residential areas. Had they done it, Hamas fighters would have burst into the AP's bureau and threatened its staff. Freeman also wrote, cameramen waiting outside a Gaza hospital would film the arrival of civilian casualties and at a signal from an official, turn off their cameras when wounded and dead fighters came in. The press was effectively helping maintain the illusions that there were no terrorists, only civilians were dying. In another 2017 article titled, "What the AP's Collaboration with the Nazis Should Teach Us About Reporting the News," Freeman revealed a hard truth from World War II. AP's photo office became the leading supplier for Nazi propaganda images. Did the experience of working with the Nazis predict the fate of AP in Gaza? You get the idea. Friedman then gave another example from the end of 2008. When the Israel-Hamas war erupted, a local Palestinian reporter informed AP's Jerusalem office of a critical detail. Hamas fighters dressed as civilians were counted in the civilian death toll. The reporter called Freeman back a few hours later and asked him to drop the details because the reporter's life was at risk from the terror group. Freeman wrote, "From that moment on, more or less AP's coverage from Gaza became a quiet collaboration with Hamas. As a consequence, Hamas military actions were left vague or ignored, while the effects of Israeli actions were reported at length, given the impression of wanton Israeli aggression just as Hamas wanted." Given that context, let's look at what happened in the past few days. At midnight on Thursday, Israel's Defense Forces, IDF, tweeted, "IDF air and ground troops are currently attacking in the Gaza Strip." Some big media in the United States jumped on the tweet, interpreting it as Israel sending ground forces into Gaza. About an hour later, the Washington Post claimed, "Israeli troops have entered the Gaza Strip as conflict with Palestinians escalate," Israel military says. CBS News headline reads, "Israeli ground troops enter Gaza as conflict intensifies." However, there was no ground invasion into Gaza. It's true that Israel deployed troops along the border, but they didn't cross, With inaccurate media's reports flying around, Hamas and Islamic Jihad were misguided as well. They sent their first line of defense into the Hamas metro, taking up positions for Israeli ground forces. The Hamas metro is an underground network of tunnels sprawling hundreds of kilometers through Gaza. Terrorist groups use the tunnels to store weapons and take cover from airstrikes. The invasion was coming from the air only. IDF assembled 160 aircrafts targeting the metro. The Israeli military destroyed 9 miles of the tunnels, and once the terrorist fighters were out of the tunnels, they were exposed to the airstrikes. Hamas and Islamic Jihad said at least 20 of their fighters were killed, while Israel said the number is at least 130, including the destruction of 9 homes of high-ranking Hamas commanders. The White House on Monday defended not publicly calling for a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the Biden administration is using quiet, intensive diplomacy to reduce violence in the region. Back in the United States, the Supreme Court unanimously rejected the Biden administration's argument in a Rhode Island case that police should be allowed to enter homes without a warrant to seize handguns. Edward Caniglia sued Cranston, Rhode Island police for violating his constitutional right by taking away his guns without a warrant and refusing to return them. The plaintiff had a disagreement with his wife. When the argument escalated, Caniglia produced an unloaded gun and told his wife to shoot him. Worried that Caniglia might be suicidal, his wife asked the police to conduct a welfare check, and they took away his guns. On March 24th, lawyer Morgan Ratner from the Department of Justice supported the city of Cranston's position, arguing police have to be free to act in potential emergencies. But the Supreme Court smashed the hopes of gun grabbers across the nation on Monday. Justice Clarence Thomas said, "The question today is whether these incidents create a standalone doctrine that justifies warrantless searches and seizures in the home." Thomas wrote, "It does not." In a separate opinion, Justice Samuel Alito said the High Court is properly rejecting the broad community caretaking theory. The ruling of the Supreme Court came amid Biden and Democrats' push for aggressive new restrictions on Second Amendment rights, including the highly controversial red flag laws. These laws allow gun seizures from law-abiding gun owners with limited due process. The Supreme Court's rejection is seen as a setback to Biden's gun control agenda. The police may have made the right choice to seize Caniglia's gun without a warrant for caretaking to reduce potential harm, but such seizure of weapons is granted on a case-by-case basis. Individual incidents cannot justify the push for the nation's gun control. In another Supreme Court ruling, the court decided to hear a dispute over Mississippi law that bans all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The hearing could potentially put the conservative majority court on the opposing side of Roe v. Wade, a landmark decision from 1973 that legalized abortion across the United States. The court said the two sides would be limited to discussing if it is constitutional to set restrictions on abortions that determine at what stage a fetus can live outside of the womb. The court has seen a shift from its more liberal leanings to a 6-3 conservative court, throwing the future of its long-standing pro-abortion stance into question. However, the Biden administration is committed to codifying the outcome of Roe v. Wade regardless. Codifying is systematizing the rulings the Supreme Court made in Roe v. Wade and ensuring there are no gaps in understanding. Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Monday declined to comment on the High Court's taking of the Mississippi case. Rather, Psaki denounced how the so-called right to health care and right to choose have been under extreme attack, especially through strict state laws over the last 4 years. To codify Roe v. Wade into law, it requires at least 10 votes from GOP senators, assuming all 50 Democrats would vote for it. Currently, only Republican Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski have made it clear they support this push. Last Friday, the Commerce Department released its April report. Retail sales in the U.S. was 0% last month, worse than the market's expectation of 0.8%. This data is very important as it serves as an indicator for changes in consumer consumption and the overall economy. A number lower than expected signals a weaker U.S. currency. According to the latest update from the Federal Reserve on April 28th, the ultra-low interest rate policies are expected to continue until there's more evidence of economic growth. Now, gold tends to benefit from a lower interest rate environment as the cost of holding non-yielding bullion is low. Now, a weaker US dollar and strong global inflation rate are driving the demand for gold. Gold price this morning rose to the highest in more than 3 months. Now, speaking of gold, I want to introduce to you our sponsor for today's show, American Hartford Gold. American Hartford Gold provides a service to help prepare for inflation. With the current administration's out-of-control spending, you can diversify with gold and silver, and that's exactly what American Hartford Gold can do for you. You can purchase physical gold and silver and have it delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA account, making it extremely easy. They are also one of the highest rated firms in the country with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and not to mention thousands of satisfied clients. And most importantly, because you are a subscriber to the Eye Opener Show, if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. So don't wait and take advantage of this special offer. Now, the number to call is 1-866-880-0328, or you can just text Mike to 65532. So once again, the number is 866-880-0328, or text Mike to 65532. Now, with that all being said, let me grab my mug that matters and thank American Hartford Gold for sponsoring today's Eye Opener Show and helping our mission to deliver truthful news. Salute. In Windham, New Hampshire, the audit there is producing some disturbing results. Ken Eyring, Government Integrity Project's chairman, said preliminary results from the audit show the aging AccuVote Diebold voting machines cannot be trusted. If the same model of the machines were used across the state, all New Hampshire elections need to be reviewed. The table showing on the screen are the results of the Rockingham District 7 state representative race. This is the race that produced the largest discrepancy in the history of New Hampshire and triggered the recount. Recounts from each of the 4 AccuVote machines are all different from the number on election night as well as the number on November 12th. Audit results on Republican candidates are significantly higher than the election nights. Each GOP candidate has about 300 more votes, while results on Democrat candidates remain relatively flat. For example, Democrat Loanna Singernew only has a variation of 2 votes between all 4 machines, but for Republican Bob Lynn, the discrepancy is as high as 44 votes between machine 2 and machine 4. 44 votes is enough to alter election results. Eyring said consideration should be given to hand counting every vote on election night. If entire countries like Canada, Australia, and the UK can hand count all their votes, then cities and towns of New Hampshire can as well. Eyring provided preliminary audit results from other races as well. If you are interested in checking them out, I've put the link to Eyring's report in the description. In Arizona, after holding a meeting yesterday afternoon, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors issued a 13-page letter responding to Senate President Karen Fann's letter from last Wednesday. Compared to Fann's request, the county's response was angry and aggressive. The board members denied all accusations made by the Senate in a way that ridiculed the soundness of the audit. In the letter, the county officials made it clear that they wouldn't attend today's meeting at the state capitol to present the response. So what's their answer to the 3 main allegations about deleting election databases, ballot organization anomalies, and missing passwords to the voting machines? The county said the databases weren't deleted. It claimed that Maricopa had reproduced the missing database image provided by the audit team and accused the auditing company, Cyber Ninja, of either being unable to locate or read the files, or they removed the files themselves. The image in the county's letter looks exactly the same as the one from the audit team, including the File Finder Tool RStudios version number and the date and time the audit performed the file search. It looks strange. We don't know whether the county was really able to replicate the image or it copied and pasted the image into the response. On the significant discrepancies between the actual number of ballots contained in a batch versus the total denoted for the batch, Maricopa claimed those missing ballots were ballots sent to the adjudication process, thus not present in the batch. In one of the examples cited by Fann, batch number 1643 had 18 more ballots, not fewer than the denoted number. How did the county explain this? They said they examined the particular batch and believed there was exactly 200 ballots, not 218 ballots. So in other words, the county disagrees with the findings of the audit team. However, the county didn't address why the adjudication rate was so unreasonably high for Maricopa. According to their explanation, in some cases, 18% of the ballots from a batch were sent for adjudication, while the FEC allowable rate is only 0.0008%. What's the explanation for this? On the password issue, the county said it doesn't have the passwords to the machines. And for the past 2 audits that took place in February, Dominion provided the passwords to the 2 audit teams hired by the county. So this time, Dominion refused to cooperate with the Senate's contractor, CyberNinja, for the reason that the company wasn't accredited by the Election Assistance Commission, or the EAC. Well, does the EAC determine who can audit and who cannot? It doesn't. In fact, the EAC itself is questionable. In 2019, the EAC hired Jessica Bowers to its voting system certification program. Bowers had worked for Dominion for 10 years. The commission hired someone with a conflict of interest. It's a relief that CyberNinja wasn't accredited by the questionable EAC. Now, at the end of the letter, Maricopa County officials called for an immediate end of the audit. Well, what they wrote in those 13 pages doesn't really stand up to much scrutiny. Due to time limitations, we only reviewed the most important parts of the county's response. Likely there are more problems otherwise. Why wouldn't you defend yourself face-to-face with the Arizona Senate today? The Arizona Republican Party replied yesterday saying, tense standoff between some Maricopa County officials and the Arizona Senate have escalated into a war of words directed against the Senate, America's audit, and even former President Donald Trump.
Their real motivation could not be more clear. Stop attacking them. Stop questioning their work. And above all, stop the audit. After all, don't you realize that what Dominion and the election office staff put in front of them looked just fine? And finally, Chairman Jack Sellers said he and the rest of them are going to ignore legislative inquiries and subpoenas. In other words, they'll all be willingly and willfully in contempt of the Arizona Senate's authority. In spite of their political shell game, this audit will not end until it is indeed completed.
And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, and Parler. Now, don't forget, please sign up to the email list right here so that we can stay in contact with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.